to another episode of Risk Unfiltered. I'm on this beautiful island resort called Young Island in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I have the privilege and pleasure, let's hope it's pleasure.
Pleasure always pleasure.
To have a conversation with Mr. Marcus Ballantyne. Marcus is the chairman of a financial institution. He's also, has some responsibility and ownership on this beautiful island called
Correct.
Young Island, as well as many other portfolios. He wears hats and is involved with many other things. And Marcus's father was once, may he rest in peace, the Governor General of
That's correct,
St.
yes,
Vincent.
Governor General.
And with that, I would like to introduce my listeners to Mr. Marcus Ballantyne. Hello, Marcus.
Hey Ken, thanks for having me. Appreciate
Welcome.
On my very first podcast ever.
Right. So tell us a
yes.
little bit about Marcus Ballantyne.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
my name is Marcus Ballantyne, as was said before, and I was actually born in New York. Came here at the age of 2. Lived in St. Vincent from 2 to 16. And you said, well, what's your connection to New York? Well, my dad was a medical doctor. He was studying in New York. He went to Syracuse, and he was doing his residency and internships there. So he ended up having a couple of kids there. And then I came to St. Vincent. I was here from 2 until 16. Did my primary and secondary education here, and then I left. I went to California in the USA.
To be an actor or no?
Well, at that,
you have that kind of
at
look
that time
about
when
you,
I was really, really good looking, I was going to be a model, right? But
okay.
or an actor. But that didn't pan out. But everything happens for a reason. Like it's something that philosophy I always believe with.
Very true.
At this point, at this time, to do this podcast for specific reasons. So I went to the University of California, San Diego, where I studied economics. Subsequent to that, I worked in banking, finance first of all, for Transamerica Financial Services, which is a multifaceted company, leasing, financial services, all types of things, insurance. And then after that, I went into banking, mainly in the compliance, back office type work. I was in internal asset review and loan classification. Did that for 3 years, and then I was getting really happy to just be working and earning income, taking care of myself. But my dad, always prioritizing education, he literally chattel prodded me into going and getting an MBA, because I think if it were not for my dad, I would not have had an MBA. He just, education was paramount for him. He just saw it as a platform to succeed, being the first person in the family to have completed secondary school. Right? His parents didn't complete secondary school, but my dad did that and became a medical doctor. He actually ascended to being the position of chief medical officer in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He started the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Heart Association, was a very successful medical doctor before he became the Governor General.
But let me ask you this: Do you think you have picked up where your dad left off?
My
I know
dad
he left you with a lot of
He
responsibilities.
did. I am the heir. No, I was the heir apparent. I'm the patriarch of the family. I'm the successor. I'm the executive of the estate. Everything. So I'm picking up where my dad left
Even
off.
this island. So you want,
Everything.
What's the little
Yes,
history
sir.
behind
So,
Young Island? And
well, we'll come to that in a minute. Let me just finish quickly. So I did undergraduate in economics, and I did a graduate degree in finance. And in 1997, I returned to St. Vincent, which is 27 years ago, right?
Okay.
And the reason I returned is that my dad was a serial entrepreneur. So in addition to being a medical doctor, he started all kinds of businesses. So he's involved in commercial property management, marina, yacht chartering, hotel, financial services, banking, medical transcription services, medical coding, medical laboratory, medical school, call center, you name it, fishing. My dad's been involved in almost every type of business. He hated to see cash. He literally believed if there was $50,000 cash in the bank, Dad would invest 200,000.
Yeah.
He's like, when my dad bought this island in 1979, he did not have the money to buy it. He just had the dream, the aspiration, and
to own it.
it. And so what he would do is, he'd go to dad, go to his dad, my granddad, I need some money from you. Go to the bank, call friends. And, he made things. He realized dreams. And he was a serial entrepreneur. And for risk people like you, my dad was 100% risk tolerant. He would just take any and every risk, right? I am, on the other hand, risk averse. I have never started a business in my life, but we had a symbiotic relationship because as an entrepreneur, he started all these businesses, and as somebody having an MBA with good management, administrative and leadership skills, I was able to make most of Dad's businesses successful. So there were obviously hits and misses, and
as usually happens in entrepreneurial.
Yeah. So now, coming back to this island, so in 1979, he bought this island. This island was actually developed as a resort in the late 1950s by someone who was involved in the Hilton Group, which is a guy named John Hauser. And had two successive owners after Hauser, and it was acquired by locals in 1979. The legend has it that this island, Young Island, was actually owned by the national hero of St. Vincent, Paramount Chief Chatelier. He's one of the indigenous Caribs. We call them Black Caribs. And it is said, alleged or said, that he traded this island to General Young, who was a British Army general, for 2 horses. Because many years ago, horses were valuable. That's what was valuable. So having an island with just bush and agouti and iguana and things like that wasn't valuable. So he traded it and he got these 2 horses, and that's the legend of how the name of Young Island evolved. So,
but you were critical, you and your team, in getting it to where it is now.
Well, I was away. Remember, in '79, I was only 9 years old when Dad acquired it. I mean, I came back when I was 27. In 1997, I became a director of the resort, and then I worked along with my dad and his co-owner Vidal Brown, as well as the executive management team, and it was very successful even before I was here. But when the global economic recession hit in 2008, we started having a lot of problems, and I remember studying about turning around businesses and so forth. But boy, we had challenges. We lost money for 14 consecutive years, at this resort. But they just believed in it, and they kept it afloat, and now it's very profitable, and everything is looking up and positive.
God is awesome. So let's talk about you, Marcus Ballantyne, as a leader. So as I said during the introduction, you're chairman of a bank here in St. Vincent. So how your past experiences, no, forget experience, your skill sets, your personality, how does that make you a better leader or a leader in transition?
Well,
how do you view yourself as a leader?
To me, leadership is about learning. It's continuous learning, because paradigms evolve over time. I remember when I was growing up, leaders were very authoritative. They were dictatorial. You know, they ruled with iron hand and iron fist. And
some of my folks say that I lead like that.
But what I learned over time, I think that if you have a more inclusive approach to leadership, where everybody feels like they're part of a team with a vision that is clearly understood and articulated, and the appropriate missions, basically, your mission, vision, and values is understood by everyone. I want to lead in a way that where people are engaged and inclusive. I'm a man, I don't use a lot of words, I use adjectives, right? So if you say, what is your leadership style? And my leadership style has been influenced by teaching, what I learned in graduate school. It's been influenced by experiences, what I learned by watching other leaders, and like my father was a great leader, and other business leaders, and then obviously from paradigms. There's always evolving paradigms in the corporate world. So let me give you the adjectives that describe my leadership style, right? So accountability, right? As a chairman of the board of a bank, I'm accountable to the directors, I'm accountable to the shareholders, I'm accountable to the customers, I'm accountable to the depositors, I'm accountable to the community. So accountability has to be a part. You have to be accountable to leadership, right? A leader must be available, right? I'm not giving you the my style in terms of priority. I'm just giving you everything that is in the potpourri in part. Right. A leader has to be available. If you're a leader, and let's say your credit committee chair can't reach you, or your governance chair can't reach you because you're not available, you're flying all over and making plans and deals, and they can't get you to respond, then I don't think you're an effective leader. So you have to be accessible, and you have to be available. I told my whole team, executive management, they could call me anytime of the day, 3 o'clock in the morning. My phone is never off. I'm always available. I may miss a call, but I would return it, or text message. So you have to be accessible, available, accountable, inclusive, right? You need all the team members to feel like they're part of a team, and they're included, their opinions count. You may not agree, and disagreements are always good, because ventilating issues help to expose and give ideas about how sometimes you change based on arguments that are made by others opposite. And then of course transparency is paramount. You have to be 100% transparent in everything that you do as a leader, and I think that allows people to have confidence in your leadership style and to have faith in your leadership. And finally, right, you must have integrity. If you're a leader without integrity, then you have no credibility. Nobody's going to believe what you say, and people always be watching you, what we call a side eye. because they don't know if whatever you're doing is for ulterior motives, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
availability, accountability, accessibility, integrity.
Okay, but
and,
let's push the envelope.
transparency. So go ahead.
Let's push the envelope. How was and so as I said earlier, you're like your dad. You're serial entrepreneur because you have your fingers.
No,
in
no,
the-
no.
Well, hold on.
I'm a manager.
Let
I'm a
me-
manager.
okay, let me.
He's an entrepreneur.
Right. So let me rephrase the question. You are now responsible for ensuring the success of many types of businesses.
Correct.
How has past failures contributed to your management and leadership style today?
Okay. Well,
So that is like lessons learned. So
yeah, but
yeah.
okay. Failure is a part of life, right? It's inevitable, it's unavoidable, and it's destined. There's no one in life who's gone through anything, whether it's school or business or relationships, that have not had some sort of failure. So what you want to do is to learn from your failures, to see, where did I get wrong? Did I have the wrong management team in place, the wrong human resources? I didn't re-inject into this business. I used the business as a cash cow, and then the business deteriorated, and then it got to a point, it's so far gone that the amount of resources required to resurrect this business is too great, right? Or maybe I had a wrong idea. Sometimes you fail because you have a good idea, but your timing is too early.
So then
right?
personalize it.
Okay,
So give me one example of a failure. Once it's not secret. We could tell me personal,
You're hitting me hard here.
relationship. We'll take relationship, but from a business perspective. So I'm
I'll
sure.
let me give you one example.
Good.
I mean, I could give you numerous examples because my dad had some hits.
Right. So
a lot of
give me
hits.
one. Give me one example.
Yacht chartering operations, right?
Okay.
We decided we're going to have yacht chartering operations. We're going to own our own boats, right?
Yeah.
Now, the definition of a boat is a hole in the sea in which you throw money, right?
Right.
Interesting.
Interesting.
It is.
Right.
That's my dad told me. It's brutal when you're running yacht chartering operations. And so we owned our own yachts. We maintain our own yachts. We did the marketing. We got the clients. We did the banking, the accounting, the operations, the administration, everything. Utter failure twice, right? Because sometimes my dad double dipped in failure, right? Because you think you can do it better second time.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know what all the successful yacht chartering companies are doing? They manage other people's boats. They don't own any boats, right? They manage them, and after 5 years, right, they take them out the fleet. Either they sell them for you, or you take it out the fleet and you use it for your personal thing. And the reason for that, right, is the cost of maintaining a boat is astronomical. So it is better to manage boats. So these big companies, they manage yachts, right, and they get a fee.
Right.
And they also market it, and because of they're big, they have the networks and the marketing prowess.
So what was your lesson learned out of those?
My lesson learned is not to go into yacht chartering operations, right? With
spread it,
make it more global, right?
Right. So
the bigger lesson is to look.
Bigger lesson,
the bigger lesson is to look at what the successful companies are doing in a particular enterprise, and emulate that. And that was called when I was in graduate school. They said you must benchmark. Look at if I'm going to go into banking, let's look at what the top bankers are doing, and let us try to emulate them. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Why did we think, right, we could manage yachts that we own when all the big companies in the world are managing other people's yachts? Right. So that's a simple example. So you have to emulate what leaders are doing.
So that leads to, and that was your father's decision, right?
Yeah.
Good. So
what did I do? I sold yachts.
Right.
I closed the company, sold
so
them.
that leads into the ultimate goal, objective of effective risk management, in that it aids in decision making. Right? So, would you consider yourself, Marcus Ballantyne, as chairman of a bank, manager, leader, owner of multiple enterprises, as one, you spoke about your leadership side, as an effective leader, and how do you make decisions? What pot on the fire, or pots on the fire, that you can pull stuff from to feed your decision making need or hunger?
So the first thing I do when I know nothing about a subject, I go to an expert in the subject. So for instance, if I have to make a decision on governance, and you would have in place the prudential guidelines from Eastern Caribbean Central Bank in the case of a bank, and then you would have like your board charter, and you would have other different, you have the legislation to guide you.
Those are the pots.
So those are pots you can pull from, right? So if something is stipulated in law, Like you must file your financial statements by 3 months of the end of the financial year with the regulatory authority and publish them, you know, in the media and on the bank's premise. That's very clear, right? But if there's a decision now and it's not clear to me, I can't find it in law, I can't find it in the prudential guidelines, I can't find it in our board charter or in the committee charter, I go to an expert, right? I don't believe in trying to do things or make decisions in areas I don't know anything
Uninformed
about.
decisions.
Uninformed decisions, right? And let me tell you something, I have been studying learning, how we learn, right? And there's different ways you can learn. You can learn by experience, right? You can learn from reading. You can learn from being taught. You can learn from the experience of others, right? I do not want to learn by experience. People say, oh, learning by experience, oh, that's great. That's the best way to learn and so on. Let me tell you something, right? Experience very risky. If I decide to go swimming in Raraku is on the windward side of this island, and it has dangerous riptides. If I decide to go swimming there, right, and I die, what lesson have I learned there? I'm dead, there's no lesson. I would rather read the sign that says dangerous undercurrents, do not swim, right? So I rather learn from the experience of others, from being taught and from reading, right? No, I'm not saying that you won't learn from experience. We all learn from experience, right? And if you live in the Caribbean where it's 220 volts and you get appliances from the US that are 110 volt, and you take your nice, you just got a nice TV, you just got this nice 75-inch TV, I'm gonna watch Super Bowl and Champions League and so on, and you take that and you plug it directly into the outlet, burns it, right? And all of us who live in the Caribbean, we've done that. We've plugged 110 appliances into 220 electrical power supplies, and everybody in the Caribbean, that's not a good way to learn. You know, that's not a good way to learn. I would rather somebody who's an electrician tell me, you know, you need a transformer.
Yeah, so
that's what I learned.
That's the difference aspect of good leadership. You're not all knowing.
Correct.
You're all learning.
Thank you.
Yes, brilliant. Okay, so what advice, and then we'll close off with this, what advice does Marcus Ballantyne have for the young leaders to be? What advice? You talk about the millennials and the ones to come. Given this crazy, chaotic environment, the world environment that we live in, where the risks eventuating now have never eventuated in our
particularly with the advancement and the prevalence of technology.
Right. So what
guys?
Give me list three critical pieces of advice you would, from your personal skill sets, experience, that you would like to share with the youth of St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Okay, so number one, get educated. We are overwhelmed with information coming at us from many different sources, some credible and some not credible, and then you also have artificial intelligence, which is creating a whole another layer of barrage of information that where you can't discern what is true from what is not true. So what I would say, number one, is to get educated. And when I say get educated, I mean to go to credible, established learning institutions. You know, like if you're in the Caribbean, you go to University of West Indies, United States, Europe, wherever. So you go to a credible, registered, accredited organization and you get educated. That's number one, right? Number two, surround yourself with experts, because the information that we're getting is so overwhelming. There's so many different elements now to running a business. Running a business is not just about revenues and expenses and net profit anymore. You know, it's taking care of your human resources. You have, you know, you have external factors. You know, the external environment, the current environment, government. There's just so many different things, cybersecurity and IT, and it's evolving so quickly, particularly in the areas of cybersecurity, artificial intelligence and technology. So you got to surround yourself by experts, either by having them on the board, like for instance, we have a risk expert on our board, which is Mr. Ken Hackshaw, or by hiring these people as executive leaders or as line staff in your organization. So get educated. Surround yourself by experts, and I think you have to read a lot, because the reason I say that is that you have a lot of information.
Knowledge is power, right?
Knowledge is power, but you see sometimes when you're reading, you're
not talking about love novels or anything like that.
No. That you remember this theory and practice. That part is for practice, right? So when you're reading those, you see some of the stuff you read though would be misinformation. So you have to read opposing sides. Read what the left is saying, read what the right is saying, read what the center is saying, and then try to pick sense from nonsense.
Yeah,
that's a term you use there, right?
Yeah. So
read, educate, and surround yourself with experts.
Okay. So let's go back to Young Island. For a quick second. So we are on Young Island. We've been here for a couple of days. And in the essence of full disclosure, as Marcus, I also sit on the board that Marcus is chair. And one of the reasons I asked Marcus to do this is, and I've said it to him in person, so now it's going public, that if not for his leadership style, I probably wouldn't still be on the board. And he is accommodating, as he said. He's always available. My one regret is that he's always on a boat somewhere and he still answers, and I'm stuck in some office, in some friggin' building. But
that's by choice, huh? That's by choice,
right? But I actually call him Captain Marcus. Oh, you forgot to say that parts of Dr. Sparrow, Private Sparrow was filmed on part of the island.
Pirates of the Caribbean. Jack Sparrow.
Yeah. I think I saw Jack Sparrow in my room last night.
They stayed at Young Island. Johnny Depp and the staff of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I saw some pirates in my room last night. I don't know how they got in, but anyway. Marcus, it was a pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you for being part of this conversation, and I'll give the island, 10 out of 10 for it's rustic, it's different. So composite.
It's you feel like you're truly on an island, because
very
the
true.
only thing on this island is the hotel.
Yeah.
Right? And there are not a lot of islands that have only a hotel. In St. Vincent, the Grenadines are actually two.
And it's almost like an eco hotel, because you're surrounded by trees and nature.
Flora and fauna and animals.
Actually, I was swimming with an alligator. Well, it was an alligator, with a tortoise this morning.
I thought you were swimming with a mermaid.
I tried. I
believe so, but they would have captured you. But if you look over here, that's the mainland St. Vincent, and we're only 200 yards away on this beautiful island resort.
Yeah.
There are only two other setups like this in the area. Petit St. Vincent.
So this is one of the Grenadine Islands.
This is the first Grenadine island.
Island.
Petit St. Vincent, which is the southernmost Grenadine island, is also an island with just a hotel. And then you have Palm Island, which is an island with a hotel, but it has some villas in it, so it's not exclusively a hotel. So you're not going to go to many places in the world
and
where
just be on
an island with only a hotel. So it's phenomenal. It's incredible.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay. It's close to the mainland.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being part of Risk Unfiltered, and we'll come back again soon.
Could I get to describe your leadership style?
No, that's our next thing.